Game sequels aren't always a surefire formula for success. They can take one of two routes, so which track did Monster Train 2 choose? Well, all aboard, folks! We're about to see if this follow-up keeps chugging along, or if its ambitions are derailed. Okay, and that's enough. But keep watching, please. Welcome to the FullCleared YouTube channel. This comprehensive review of Monster Train 2 was written by video game expert Jason Su, and I really do hope it's a steam-powered train. Presenting this feature, I am non-gamer and professional buzzkiller Craig Cole. Now, this review is based on a retail code provided by Big Fan Games on PC. Anyway, let's see what Jason has to say about this spooky, creature-themed game. At least that's what I thought it was when I looked at the footage. But after reading this review, I'm really not sure. For many Monster Train fans, Monster Train 2 is essentially the perfect sequel. It precisely understands what fans loved about the original game and delivers more of that. The sequel expands on the addictive, tactical deck-building core with new clans. Oh, is that one of the creatures you can play? Like Grand Wizard? No, not that kind. Absolutely not that kind of clan. No, not at all. Anyway, you get an engaging endless mode and numerous significant quality of life improvements, including highly requested features like undoing turns and restarting battles. These enhancements contribute to making Monster Train 2 feel exactly how a sequel should, both familiar and polished. Those who loved the core gameplay loop of the original and wanted more, fresh strategies, new cards, and new clans, again, no, will find exactly what they're looking for in Monster Train 2. If you were hoping for something that changes the genre, you'll likely be disappointed. This title strictly adheres to the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. After all, it's not easy to properly execute on the formula of easy to learn and hard to master. Some developers say it's harder to follow up a hit game than to launch a new one in the first place. And that's because there are now expectations from an established player base, and we all know gamers always have an opinion or 10 of what they feel developers should be doing.
And it's got a very clear answer.
Developers. Now, do you take some risks with the sequel so it feels like something entirely new, like Nintendo did with both Super Mario Bros. 2 and Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link? Or do you go the route of something like classic Doom and Doom 2, where the follow-up clearly uses the same foundation, but with expanded features and design? Well, some of the most successful sequels in the history of gaming managed to toe the line between these two philosophies, like Diablo 2 and Mass Effect 2. Gosh, there sure are a lot of twos here. Monster Train 2 falls more into the Doom to Doom 2 category than it does in the Diablo 2 category. Again, more twos. Now, if you're like Jason and sank hundreds of hours into Monster Train, you'll find many aspects of this follow-up very familiar, but still something is different about it. The train, for example, is now ascending on the map, traveling from south to north rather than descending to hell as in the original game. Oh boy, that sounds fun. Map icons have been refined, and the overall shop UI has been streamlined. Many of these UI changes aren't even things Jason had an issue with in the first game, but when he went back to Monster Train to compare the differences, he found that everything in Monster Train 2 just made more sense. Some of these changes might have been made with the Steam Deck in mind, given how well it plays on Valve's handheld. Steam? Valve? Sounds like a train to me. For newcomers, the Monster Train franchise places a unique twist on the roguelike deck-building genre by adding multi-floor battles and diverse clan mechanics. For the last time, no! Prior to embarking on Monster Train 2, players choose two clans. One primary, one allied. and a hero for each clan, although only the hero from the primary clan is playable. Confused yet? Even I am. The selected hero for the allied clan affects the starting cards in the deck. New to the sequel is the ability to swap out the Pyre Heart, which sits atop the train and must be defended or you lose the run. These additional Pyre Hearts aren't just visual variants, since they serve as meta progression rewards that must be unlocked through gameplay. Each one grants a distinct power, ranging from earning gold whenever the Pyre Heart takes damage, to permanently expanding the capacity of a random floor after battle. To keep things balanced, every special Pyre Heart also comes with its own starting attack and health values that are different from the default. Covenant ranks and mutators return from the base game, and I have no idea what those are, but I guess he explains them in the very next sentence. Covenant ranks are selectable levels that must be unlocked through successful playthroughs that add fixed modifiers to make the runs more difficult. For example, Covenant Rank 1 makes it so enemies are stronger and additional random cards are added to the starting deck. Mutators are also affixes that are similar to the effects added by Covenant ranks, but up to 3 are chosen by the player. These can range from spells or units having additional cost to cards with fewer upgrade slots. The big difference with mutators is that runs customized with them aren't counted towards card mastery, Covenant rank unlocks, or victory tracking. Good to know. They're really just there for increased customization if you somehow manage to get bored with the game. And I'm bored with this review, I'll tell you that. I guess that's not news. I'm not a gamer. I don't play anything other than Wario's Goldmine. But folks, quick question here. Does Wario perpetuate anti-Semitic stereotypes? Leave a comment. Both Covenant ranks and he's got a giant nose, he's the bad guy, and he has a f***ing gold mine. Think about that. Both Covenant ranks and mutators are used in the new Dimensional Portal gameplay mode, where dimensional challenges live. There are 21 in total, and each challenge chooses everything for the player: primary and allied clans, Pyre Heart, and mutators. The Dimensional Portal is the perfect challenge for experts of the game, as you'll need to have mastery over each clan's archetypes in order to do a successful run. And Jason found some of these to be quite challenging, while others were really fun when he managed to break the game with some very powerful builds. It's also a great mode to learn how synergy works with each of the clans. Oh, thank God you didn't do it this time. Some Monster Train veterans will be most excited to hear about the game's other new feature, Endless Mode. Now, this option appears after the player manages to complete a successful run against Heaven's armies. That sounds an awful lot like a cult name. It carries over your current deck so you can see just how powerful it really is. Now, it's fairly straightforward in that there is an endless series of battles so long as the Pyre Heart lives. In between each series of battles, players choose between 2 options, each of which has 1 positive modifier and 1 negative modifier. Of course, enemies will also scale as the fight goes on in Endless Mode, with increasing attack, health, armor, and status effects. At its core, the sequel doesn't reinvent what made its predecessor so beloved. Instead, developer Shiny Shoe confidently doubles down on the game's strengths. The central loop consists of drafting cards, strategizing unit placement across the 3 floors, and protecting the Pyre Heart at all costs. There's an oddly satisfying rhythm of turn-based tactical placement while managing limited resources and responding to enemy waves. The best way this can be described in Monster Train 2 is that it takes the core mechanics of the original game and deepens them. The introduction of new clans and cards results in plenty of new strategies to discover, and veterans will have a lot to look forward to. Ugh, not again. Central to the strategy in Monster Train 2 are the units and their placement. Each floor has a capacity designated by a resource, and units occupy a different amount of capacity. For example, each floor starts with a capacity of 5, but that could be occupied by just 2 units, one being 3 cost and another being 2 cost. This cost is also different from a unit's Ember cost, which is needed to play the actual card. In addition to floor capacity, Each floor accommodates a maximum of 7 units, regardless of how much you've expanded it. There are ways, however, to overflow each floor's capacity, and this plays a major role for certain let's say tribe instead. This plays a major role for certain tribe combinations. Each battle consists of multiple waves of enemies, which typically enter the train from the bottom floor. There are some exceptions to this rule, with certain enemies spawning on other floors and bosses freely traveling between the three. Enemies always attack first, unless your unit has the quick affix, and the UI does a fantastic job letting you know how everything is going to resolve. Before you commit to your turn, you'll see exactly what's going to happen on that floor. You'll know which enemy units will live and travel to the next floor, and which of your units will die. If you're new to the series, it takes time to get accustomed to how everything resolves, especially since there are multiple affixes that can impact the order of operations. This video is brought to you by Anthrax. Anthros. In the high-stakes world of competitive gaming, yes, that's a thing, comfort and performance make all the difference. So meet Anthros, the leader in innovative gaming chairs, and you thought it was just something to sit on. You were wrong. Engineered with their precision posture system, Anthros allows you to sit like you game, slumped over and covered in crumbs. No, I'm sorry, that's just me. Perfectly aligned and fully supported, match after match. Chosen as the official chair of ESL and DreamHack, Anthros is committed to elevating the gaming experience for professionals worldwide. Now, to get $200 off, scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the description box below to configure your perfect Anthros gaming chair today. Join the leaders in esports and upgrade your game with Anthros. Sit like you game. We thank Anthros for their support of FullCleared and for offering our audience that exclusive discount. God bless. Jason says the most refreshing change in Monster Train 2 is the ability to undo a turn or restart the battle altogether. When it comes to roguelike deck-building games, there's always a puzzle to be solved, and often there is a solution with the cards you have. Jason found himself using Undo Turn quite a bit, which also helped deepen his understanding of how synergies worked. As you can imagine, the system can be very deep with different combinations of tribes, and not everything is obvious at first glance. Undo Turn is particularly impactful during boss fights, allowing you to experiment on unit placement and order of operations to maximize damage. Sometimes it takes a lot of trial and error until that light bulb goes off and you understand exactly how a mechanic works with a particular combination of tribes and cards. Following successful battles, players choose between two paths, each offering different rewards. Multiple shops include places to upgrade units or spells, or acquire artifacts, weapons, and room cards. Of course, these shops require currency, which can be gained throughout your run. Prior to some battles, there's also an option to add a modifier to earn additional currency. Other nodes on the map include locations that allow you to remove up to 2 cards from your deck, replenish Pyre Heart health, duplicate a card, or earn gold. All these variables contribute to the depth that Monster Train 2 has to offer and make each run feel different from the last. Some of the choices may come down to necessity, such as replenishing health for the Pyre Heart, while others largely depend on the tribes you choose. Some tribes benefit more from upgrading their units, for example by gaining extra health, increased damage, multi-strike, or even reduced room capacity. Other tribes thrive when their spells are upgraded with more damage or reduced cost. There are combinations where you'll want to collect as much equipment as possible or take advantage of synergies for artifacts and room upgrades. Learning and understanding how the cards in your deck synergize with the upgrade system is key to the depth of Monster Train 2's systems. Now, unfortunately, some of the criticisms Jason had for the original Monster Train persist in the sequel. For starters, the difficulty gap between the second-to-last battle and the final battle for each run is quite wide. Several times he found himself with decks that were completely dominating through the first 7 battles, and then they'd fail spectacularly in the final fight. These difficulty spikes were in the original and carry over in Monster Train 2, and sometimes it isn't even attributed to getting a bad draw. In addition, certain tribes and card combinations feel disproportionately strong, sometimes highlighting the limited pool of cards. While the UI did get noticeable polish, some elements still lack clarity, requiring constant mouse over for certain interaction effects. That's one of my top complaints. Also, if you're entirely new to the roguelike deck building genre, Monster Train 2 might feel a bit overwhelming early on. Jason had played dozens of hours of Slay the Spire before jumping into the original Monster Train, so the initial learning curve didn't feel steep. However, he said he could see this game being confusing if you've never spent time in similar games or the prequel. And this is worth noting because he did get the impression that Monster Train 2 was mainly designed for a returning audience and could benefit from a better new player onboarding experience. Some will say that Monster Train 2 stays notably safe, preserving its predecessor's winning formula rather than boldly innovating. Those wanting revolutionary changes might feel disappointed, but to Jason, the conservative approach was intentional and felt more thoughtful the more he played. This sequel succeeds because it remains confident in what made the original compelling, and its appeal comes from refined iteration and deepened complexity instead of reinvention. The game's narrative also reflects this design methodology, as there are subtle nods toward the original game when it comes to lore and characters. It's not the game's focus or the main reason to play it, but there's enough there to move it along. It's very likely some will criticize Monster Train 2, saying it's more like an ambitious expansion than a sequel, but it's a $24.99 title that easily offers dozens, if not hundreds of hours of fresh gameplay, especially with daily and community challenges, as well as leaderboards. Monster Train 2 is the sequel Jason was hoping for, respecting the original game while expanding on experimentation. Players that enjoyed Monster Train will find even more to love here, while newcomers will discover an accessible, yet deep, strategic deck builder. The game is what it promises: more Monster Train, refined, expanded, and endlessly engaging. This is a nice reminder that sometimes the best innovation is knowing precisely what to leave alone and exactly what to enhance. The new game simply refines the edges, confidently knowing that the core was already excellent. And if that's what you're looking for, Monster Train 2 is the sequel for you. In fact, this game's adherence to formula brings to mind another sequel we recently reviewed here on FullCleared. Watch our breakdown of Orcs Must Die Death Trap right now to see whether the newest installment of this tower defense game is one to skip or a must-play.